Okay, this is a quick tutorial on how to calculate your grade in Algebra 1. Now, across the county, all Algebra 1 classes work the same way. Your assessments are worth 50% of your total grade. Classwork is worth 30%, and homework is worth 20%. Now, let's take a look at a student's grades. This is a sample student grade sheet. And as you can see, all of the assignments fall into those three categories: homework, classwork, and assessments. All right, this other column is just the specific assignment. Here it tells you the point value of each specific assignment and then the points earned by that student. Now, before I teach you how to calculate this student's grade, I want you to just review this. Take a look at all of the grades and tell me what you think this student deserves, what grade, and give it a numeric value. So say, I don't think this student did very well, I think they deserve like a 65%, a D. Or maybe you think they deserve more like a high B, like an 88%, or maybe you think they deserve an A. Pause the video and I want you to write down what you think the student earned. Don't calculate anything, just give me your impression. Pause the video now. Okay, now let's see how we're going to go about calculating what this student actually got. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange my data so it's easier to analyze. So I'm going to put all the homework assignments together, all the classwork assignments together, and all the assessments together. And then for your convenience, I'm going to color code them. So here's your homeworks, there's the classworks, there's the assessments. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the homework portion of the student's grade. Now, how many points did the student earn? They earned 10 points, but out of how many possible points? Out of 15. So I'm going to make a fraction. The student earned 10 out of 15 points. Now, because homework is worth 20%, I'm going to multiply this by 20. You can think of 20% out of 100 as being 20 points. Now, how many of these 20 points did I earn? Certainly not all 20. I earned 10 over 15, or 2/3 of the 20 points. So what's 2/3 of 20, or 10 over 15 times 20? That's going to be 13.3, approximately. I'm rounding to the nearest 10. It's actually 13.3 bar off into infinity. But for the purpose of calculating your grade, you're only going to need to round to the nearest tenth. Next, I'm going to do the same thing for my classwork. I'm going to make a fraction of points earned to the total points possible. Now, if you add all of these points earned up, you're going to get 144 points out of a possible 175 classwork points. Now, we're not going to multiply this fraction by 20 because classwork is worth 30%. So it's kind of like out of 30 points. So 144 over 75 times 30 is going to give us 24.7. So out of the possible 30 points, the student only earned 24.7. And then finally, our assessments. The student earned 11.5 out of a possible 18 points. And because assessments are worth 50%, we're going to multiply that by 50, and that gives us a total of 31.9 points. Now, if we add all of our total final grade points together, we get a 69.9, which is approximately a 70%. School Max would actually round this up to a 70%. So the student would earn a C. Now, is that the conclusion you came to? Did you think the student earned a 70%? Or do you think the student was a C student? If you did, that's great. You have a good intuitive sense of how you're going to do in my class. But if not, you see the importance of being able to calculate your grade. So you don't have to guess or feel your way through my class. You can actually understand what missing homework assignments, missing classwork points, and not doing well on assessments will do to your final score. Okay, let's take a look at the original graphic I showed you, because sometimes it's easier to see what's going on visually so you better understand it. Now, we said assessments were worth 50%, classwork 30, and homework 20. And I told you instead of looking at these as percentages, you might want to look at them as final grade points. So we calculated that the student earned, instead of all of the 50 points for assessments, the student only earned 31.9, leaving all of this empty space, the points that they did not earn. For classwork, they earned most of the classwork, but look at all of this empty space. And then finally, the homework, they earned only 2/3 of the total homework grades or homework points, and so they have some empty space or some points that they did not earn. And what you need to realize is everything that you miss does add up, because as you can see, all of the points that this student earned only gets them up to about 70 points. They missed about 30 points. So that brought them all the way down to a C. And there's really no reason for that. I think that student could have done a lot better. Now, let's take a look at another student. Now, using what I just showed you, I'd like you to pause the video, and I want you to try and calculate the student's grade using the technique we just went over. Pause the video now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to calculate the homework portion of the student's final grade. So let's add up how many possible homework points there are. 5 plus 5 plus 5, that's 15. And they earned, out of 15 points, 4 plus 4 plus 5. So that's 13. 13 out of 15. And we're going to multiply that by 20. And that gives us 17.3. Now you should have followed the same procedure for classwork. Add up all the classwork points, and there were 175 possible classwork points, and the student earned 155 out of 175. We multiply that by 30, and that gets us 26.6. And then finally, on the assessments, the student earned 12.25 out of 19 possible points. Multiply that by 50, and we get 32.2. You add those together, and you should have got a 76.1%, or a C. Now, this student did a lot better than the previous student, but it still wasn't enough for a B. Now, let me ask you a question. How would the student's grade change if they received an 8.5 on the quiz instead of a 6.25? See this quiz right here? The student only got about 6 questions right, and then maybe partial credit on a 7th question out of a 10-question quiz. Now, what if they got 2 more points right and maybe a few more points on that other question? Let's change the data a little bit, and let's recalculate the assessment portion of the student's final grade. What do you get now? Pause the video and see what you get. Okay, you should have gotten something like this. The student now earned 14.5 points out of 19. When you multiply that by 50, you get 38.2. And then when you add all the points together, look what happens. You get 82.1%, which is a B. Now, there's a big takeaway from this. Assessment points are worth a lot more than your homework and your classwork points. Two questions on a quiz can be the difference between a C and a B in this class. In fact, all the points you miss are important, and that's the big takeaway from this video. Every point counts. Assessments, classwork, and homework. You need to earn as many points as you possibly can in all 3 categories in order to do well in this class. If you follow these 3 pieces of advice, you're going to do a great job. The first piece of advice is you got to turn in all your homework assignments. Homework is very rarely graded for accuracy, which means if you turn it in, you will get credit. All I want you to do is attempt it. Many times I'm going to ask you to watch a video for homework and to turn in either a series of reflection questions or turn in your work from the practice problems. If you just do that, regardless of how well you do or how well you understand, you will earn full credit. That's your homework. There's no reason to get anything less than 20% full credit on your final grade in terms of homework. Now, classworks. I want you to do your best on classwork. Uh, you're going to be working in groups most of the time, and between the 4 or 5 of you, I know you're going to do a great job. If you just pay attention and try your best, I promise you, you will earn most of this 30%. And finally, assessments. Assessments are the most important part. You need to study for every quiz and be prepared for warm-ups and exit tickets. Now, to be prepared, I gotta honestly tell you, you're not going to be prepared on assessments if you're not paying attention to your homework and you're not paying attention to your classwork. If you do the homework and you do the classwork, then you only have one more thing to do for assessments, and that is this big word in bold, study. And study involves doing problems and getting them correct. I'm going to tell you exactly what kind of problems are going to be on every quiz, and it's your job to go through those problems, get the right answers so that you are prepared to earn as many points as you possibly can. And if you follow these 3 pieces of advice, I know you're going to do a great job.